What if you were the defensive coordinator and you were assigned to stop this Alabama offense? How would you do it? How would you do it? How would you go about? I mean, everyone is saying that this machine that Nick Saban has put together, we talked about it all off season. We said that this team would have to win with offense and not with defense. Well, it looked like there may be a combination. This defense shut down the high-powered Ole Miss offense, holding them to 7 points, which they got on the first play. So do you still feel that this team's going to have 58 points a game to win? Or that just means that they're going to beat everybody by 4 scores or more? And if you think that, give us a call. Let us hear from you. But I want to know, if you were the defensive coordinator, what would you do to stop Tua Tagovailoa? And I thought it was interesting that I had put this up as a question, but there's a article at AL.com. I don't know if you've seen the article. James, Tua Tagovailoa versus the 1992 defense. Yeah.
That's interesting to think about.
Yeah. I
don't know how to react to John Copeland and Eric Curry barreling down on him.
Well, I give you Willie Gaston was one of the guys that they interviewed for the article. He said, now, I'm not going to say it wouldn't be close. He said, let me go back up to where he started. He said, you asked the wrong question, the wrong person that question. Gaston said, I'm going to give you a real biased answer. I'm not going to take away from their talent, referring to the 2018 Tua Tagovailoa-led offense, but I'm going to give you a real biased answer. Now, listen to this, though. As far as our secondary and our front seven, he said, I can't even put it into words. You got George Teague, first-round pick. You got Antonio Langham, first-round pick, who was a Thorpe winner at your corners. You got Chris Dunley at safety. You had Tommy Johnson. You had me. And he didn't even mention Sam Shade. You got Sam Shade. Then you got linebacker Corey. You had Derek Oaten, went to Philadelphia. You got bookends, Copeland and Curry. And then you had Jeremy and James Gregory up the middle. Then when we wanted to add more pressure to you, we put Antonio Langham on the end and Copeland and Curry together in the middle. I mean, come on. Once again, this is Willie Gaston speaking. But at the end was more diplomatic. I'm not going to say it wouldn't be close, he said. I'm not going to say that because that would be just unrealistic. We see the talent. To go against the 92 defense, it would be a great matchup. I would say they would win some and we would win some. Perhaps no one knows the 92 defense like the quarterback that competed against it every day in practice. And, of course, if you want to read that article in its entirety, I may reference back to it again, but they also interviewed Jay Barker about that particular matchup as well. I'd like to know what you think. Would this be a matchup that you would pay? How much? That'd be a great price. Woo! How much would you pay for a ticket to now? The question is, has this team been tested? We keep saying that every week. Has this team been tested yet? And I think it was Bama Bo on the game saying that Tua Tagovailoa had been through some adversity, and she referenced last year's game against Georgia where he threw the interception and came back and responded. True, good response. He had the sack. Of course, he came back and do the second and 26. Great response again. But is that the same as being the man, having your team where it's all on you, where it even though he had pressure, it's a different pressure when you're coming in as the guy who's going to save the team versus being the guy who they prepared for instead. Now, does that mean that this guy wouldn't respond? I hadn't seen anything that say that Tua wouldn't be able to respond and handle the pressure, but this team really hasn't been tested yet. And that 92 defense, they were tried, true, and tested. and they were savvy. They were smart. I mean, that was a very, very mature, older team. All of those guys you just heard me name were like juniors, seniors, and redshirt seniors. So it was a lot of older guys out there that had played a lot of football. But it'd be a matchup that I would pay. I mean, that's one of those tickets that probably would be worth the cost of admission if you could get that particular matchup. So
Martin, if I was going to have somebody try and game plan against Tua, Bill Oliver from that 1990 as far as defensive coordinator would certainly be at the top of my list.
Now, I would tell you this: if I was playing against Tua, I would do everything they would have to run the ball on me. Okay, I mean I would do everything I could to take away the passing game and just say, you know what, they may beat us, but he's not going to sit back there in the pocket and pick me apart. And I'm going to do some. If I did some blitzing, I would do blitzing, but I wouldn't take people out of the passing game. And what I mean by that, I would do some zone blitzes where it creates some potential confusion with the offensive line, but I'm dropping some of those talented defensive linemen back in the passing game for the underneath stuff, and then I'm using my back end to cover the receivers.
I'm thinking a little bit, maybe off and on as far as what Bill Oliver game plan for that Miami offense, as far as maybe every now and then putting 11 on the line of scrimmage just to give Tua something to think about.
Well, the reason you can do that, though, James, was remember what Miami was doing to everyone that year? Miami was doing not to the level that Alabama's done it in these first few games, but Miami had won 28 games in a row at that point, if I'm not mistaken, and they had more receivers than people could match up with. They had more skill sets. Between their tight end and their wide receivers and then a back out of the backfield, no one had the players to run with them. I would take our DBs that I believe that our DBs, our corners, our fifth cornerback, you could put them in man-to-man. And that's the only way I think you can slow down this offense is if you have the ability to match up. If you have a DB that can run with Henry Ruggs one-on-one, you have to have a DB that can run with, a DB that can run with Judy one-on-one, one that can run with Smith one-on-one, and then you can use maybe some underneath stuff with Irv Smith. Or have a linebacker that can run with Irv Smith. If you have to use two guys to cover any other guy and your other guys can't run one-on-one, this offense from the passing game is unstoppable. We've not shown that we can run when we have to yet. And that's what I would do. I would say, you know what? You may beat us, but we're going to try our best to make you a running team. And that does two things. First of all, the plays and the scores may not be as explosive. I say may not because Damian Harris and Najee Harris and Josh Jacobs can take them to the house, James. So either way is a possibility. Go ahead.
Curtis Lewis's response at 1 Foot Bassett just came in. How to stop Tua? Pray.
Well, hey, guys, I'm going to tell you, that's a great response, and we hadn't seen anybody do it, but there's going to come a game somewhere where somebody's going to figure out a game plan, or it's possible that Tua could have an off day, and Alabama's going to have something else in the kit. Now, will that be this year? I don't know. I mean, it may or may not, but this is not the first time we've seen the unstoppable force, the unmovable force, and it runs into a wall somewhere. And I guess the question is, how, though? What would be your game plan? And I would add pray into it. I mean, I pray. I'd pray. Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't hurt. And, guys, anyone that heard me saying that Gino Torretta is on the same level as Tua, that had nothing to do with what I was saying. What I'm saying is that the only way to stop Tua, because you're not going to take away Tua's accuracy. You're not going to take away Tua's ability to read and how fast he can read. So the way to stop Tua isn't necessarily what you're going to do to Tua. And James, you can come in on this. When I'm saying stopping Tua, I don't think you're going to, like I said, you can't change his accuracy. He's accurate as accurate. He reads the ball quick. So you're not going to stop him there because Ken Wiley said Gino Torretta isn't on the same level as Tua, and Texas A&M doesn't have the defense to deal with Tua and all the skill players. That's the key is when I said how do you stop Tua, it's not stopping Tua, it's stopping Tua's weapons, okay? That 92 team to me could man up against this offensive talent, just like they did against Miami. No one else could stop Miami because there wasn't another team in the country that had enough DBs and had enough guts to come up and press all of the Miami wide receivers like that 92 team did, and could at the same time, without bringing additional players, could get pressure on the quarterback. You take and get pressure on the quarterback, and you can man up. Now Tua's quickness is kind of nullified because now the quick read isn't there, James, because you're jamming the receiver and getting him off his route.
Now, I think what we have seen already this year, Arkansas State tried to rush 3 and 4 and was woefully unsuccessful doing so. I think kind of like when Peyton Manning was at Tennessee, you can't just sit back, put 7 or 8 in coverage and hope to be able to even contain Tua as far as relying on your defensive back to be able to cover for an extended period of time. Unless you've got like an elite defensive line, you've got to at least get some pressure just once again to make Tua think, and not only think, but think quickly.
Right, and that's what did Alabama do to Ole Miss? They rushed 4 and had 7 in coverage. And because of that, the quarterback didn't have long to throw the ball. It's not just what the quarterback does, it's what the guys do that he's throwing it to. If I make the receivers change their route, then what Tua pre-read goes out the window. If I'm able to jam and slow down, and that's the only thing you can do to slow down Tua. We'll continue to talk about the Tua. Hey, if you're the defensive coordinator, what would you do? And everybody that keeps saying there's nothing you can do, well, somebody's out there trying to figure it out. We'll see if they can. If they come up with a game plan. Nick Saban's at the same time going, hey, what are they trying to do to stop us so we can have some continue to have success on offense? So let's talk about that. Hadn't anyone figured out the riddle of stopping Tua yet? I don't think Texas A&M will figure it out. So I want to know what you think the prediction score is. I had a gentleman yesterday with Northwood Autos Sales tell me, James, he said, I think we should just give everybody start playing our games like you do golf. Let's handicap the other team 21 points. He said handicapping 21 points. And I said, you think Alabama will still win? He said, I was just talking about handicapping 21 points, and then we'll catch them by halftime.
Ole Miss knows a few thing or two in series history about that, being spotted a 21-point lead and blowing every bit of that lead.
The last time Alabama scored 62 straight points against Ole Miss in 89. But he's saying that this offense is that good. What do you think? Got a couple guys holding on the line. Just hold on there. We'll be right to you. How to stop Tua. If you were the defensive coordinator, it's a What If Wednesday. Okay, so we always sit back and say what others should do and can do. So today it's your opportunity to tell me, if you were the defensive coordinator, what would you do to stop the – and we've gotten a couple of guys, James, having fun. Joseph Blazing Game saying, call in sick. We've had one gentleman say he would just pray and hope it turns out. Robert Saucier saying, stop the run and consistently be able to get the quarterback off his spot. That's your only real chance. Let me see. Kevin Smith said you have to be multiple because any good OC will beat you if they know where you will be on every snap. I thought C.J. Watson had probably the most creative answer. Use the George Teague play. Get George Teague to just take the ball away from the guys after the catch. You don't necessarily have to stop Tua that way. So that's just a couple of them. We got some more we'll get to, but let's bring in Gregory. Gregory, you're in with the Blitz, man. How would you stop Tua?
Roll Tide. I could stop his weapon. Bump him on the line. You know, in the passing game, I could try to affect him passing, you know, where he'll pass at. I put my hands up. The basic thing, I could try to control their offensive line. If I could dominate the offensive line and get Tua to step back more than he want to, you know, I have a good chance. But main thing, I just stop them on the line. I bump the wide receivers, get them out the rhythm, and then I show a different type of blitz. You know, I let them read one thing, but I do another.
Yeah, that's what Kevin was saying is you have to be multiple. If you come in with just one game plan and they figure out that's the game plan, then they make the adjustment there. So you'd have to have a couple different ways of getting at what you're talking about, but it can be done.
Yeah, you got to have a lot. But see, the key thing here is motivation. If you can motivate your defense, like giving him the greatest challenge, and the whole world going to be watching, then what y'all going to get y'all stacked from right here. Because y'all going against the top quarterback. If y'all can stop that top quarterback, you better believe the MLL be looking at you in pro.
Yeah.
You don't want a piece of y'all. So it's all about motivation, the script, and how long the energy is.
All right.
You know, I think that school got good coaching staff, and they got good players, especially on that defensive line. They got about 4 or 5 of them to get at the quarterback, the rusher. You know, now the thing is, you know, it's to execute. It's going to be a good game, Mark.
Yeah.
So everybody been waiting on.
Hey, Gregory, you got a score for me?
Oh, yeah. I think it's going to be close.
Okay.
I think it's going to be close. I say 48 to 50.
48 to 50?
Yeah.
You got Bama winning?
Yeah, I got Bama winning.
All right, I'm making sure now. 50 to 40.
Yeah, I got Bama winning now.
Now what's their total yards? Give me the total yards real quick.
You talking about rush? I mean,
no,
running?
for Texas A&M's total yard. Texas A&M total yards.
I give them 225.
All right. Thanks, Gregory. Appreciate you, man. Roll Tide.
I roll Tide, Potter.
All right, Pat, you're in with the Blitz. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Martin, have you ever heard of something called the Matrix?
Yeah.
The Matrix.
You talking about the movie?
Wood numbers, sir.
You talking about
not the movie. This is talking about the new thing about making money betting football.
Oh yeah.
But it's called the Matrix. Yesterday afternoon, I was listening to a show and coming out of Mobile, I'm back in Tuscaloosa, thank God. But anyway, this Matrix, they were talking about how good the Alabama production is with Tua at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Tua is the number one production quarterback in the country. You know how far it is between number 1 and number 2? Number 2 is Penn State. The difference between number 1 and number 2 is as much as the difference is between number 2 and number 28.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, especially if it's Penn State is the most efficient. But you look at, Alabama right now is the most efficient, not just the leading scorer. That's one thing, but they're the most efficient offense in the country as well.
Absolutely. Hey, on third with Tua in the game now, there's a big difference between Tua in the game and Jalen in the game. However, when Tua's in the game, they are by number one by far 28 positions better.
Yeah.
Is that not unreal? We talked about this being the most prolific offense.
Yeah.
How you say soothsayers or predictors.
Pat, I don't know if you have a score or not, but I'll say this and then I'll let you go. And if you want to give me a score, you can. But think about this, Pat. If you really took every position, is this the most talented wide receiver grouping? Not most talented receiver in the group, but as a group, is this 4 or 5 deep, or this is the most talented group you ever had? Is this the most talented? Hold on, well, listen to this. Is this the most talented tight end group? Irv Smith, Forrestall, Hinges. Is this the most talented running back group? Harris, Jacobs. Is this the most talented offensive line group? And then just say, okay, if that's yes, then is this the most talented quarterback? Well, when you say yes to all of those, which you could argue, you could make an argument that in every single position, this is the most talented at every single position grouping and the most talented quarterback.
Yeah. I'll go with grouping because we've had Terry Jones Jr. And Terry Jones. We've had some fantastic. Yeah,
we've had Julio Jones and Amari Cooper as an individual, but we've never had this many guys at every position where you literally don't see a drop off between 1 to 3 from the running backs to the wide receiver. Yeah, I mean that's crazy.
And when you've got 220-pound running backs, one behind another, and because there is no stopping Tua, what you were talking about trying to stop Tua, if you try to stop Tua, then he's going to pound you with giant running backs. You don't see running backs, huh?
That's the way I would try to beat Alabama. I mean, that's you, but you just nailed it. I would try to beat Alabama by making them beat me running the ball. And that sounds crazy when you're playing against an Alabama team, right? I mean,
but the trouble is, you understand 3 yards in a cloud of dust still beats the crap out of you.
Hey, but it didn't beat you 62-7.
Well, it's just not with as much style, but you still, Muhammad Ali said, you're beat by 1 point or 100 points, you still beat.
Hey, but listen, in the fourth quarter, if you're only up by 2 scores, I got a chance. But if you're up by 7 at half, if you're up by 7 scores at halftime, it's over. Yep. Hey, Pat, you got to score.
I want to give you a score that I hadn't done that. 35-7, Alabama covers.
And what's the yards
total production for Alabama?
No, for A&M. For A&M.
For A&M.
Yeah.
A&M's total production, I'm going in the vicinity of about 300 yards.
All right. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate you, man.
Okay. All right.
Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right, Cap, you're in with the Blitz, man. How would you stop Tua?
Hey, brother.
Hey,
I'm Ken on that little typing deal there on the thing. The one that said about Toretta. The way I call in the Ryan show normally, I always use Cap as I call in. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
The way I would do it is just like you just said. Here's the thing: you got to have a team that's got stout defensive linemen.
Yeah,
they got to have stout linebackers, and they got to have safeties and secondary that can cover man to man. Because, like you said, you got to be able to man up on them. Because if you can't man up on them, that's your first problem. Because Ole Miss brought 6 and 7 sometimes,
and still couldn't get there.
They got ticked off once it got like 40 or 35, 40 something, 42-7, whatever, and they just started bringing the house. And that's like that guy got that 15-yard penalty out of frustration where he took to it and slung him after the play.
Somebody just typed on Facebook. Virgil Williams just said you have to play dirty and take him out. That's about the
well, I mean, and I think teams will start trying to do that. I really do.
That's why I want him off of the extra point.
Yeah, I do too. Plus, with him being left-handed, Martin, his left hand is the one that's holding the ball, whereas Mac Jones' right hand's holding the ball.
Yep.
And when Mac Jones is in there and he's got that right finger on it, he can come up under it, and the back of it, the rest of his fingers aren't exposed. But on that left hand, those fingers are exposed. And like I heard you say the other morning, if that foot comes through there, bull of his foot, I mean, he hits those fingers, he's going to break his hand.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, but if it was me, it's like everybody's saying, you got to have multiples, but you got to have the D line. Mm-hmm. Look, Bama's given up 3 sacks, 2 of them with Tua in there. Now, and one of them was the very first play of the year when I think it was Leatherwood got beat. Now the offensive line's starting to. They look like they're coming together. We'll know more against A&M because I think they'll have a lot better front. Although Ole Miss has got some good front guys now, but
right.
I think A&M will have a lot better front. But we're not going to really know anything about this team, in my opinion, as far as being tested till we get down to Baton Rouge.
I agree. The one of the big challenges, Captain, I'm gonna let you go if you can give me a score if you want. Is right. This one of the biggest things I'm wondering? Texas A&M is like number 1 in third down conversion. We're number 1 in third down conversion, offense versus defense. Right. Something has to give. Is it a fluke on A&M side? I know it's not a fluke on our side. I've seen this kid every time he gets a third down. I've looked at my kid and said, "Hey, here comes a touchdown." And half of the time I've been correct. But that's going to be, to me, the big matchup is whose third down is going to win out. Will A&M be able to get Alabama off the field on third down? If not, this is going to be another runaway train in the first half. You got a score for me, Cap? Go ahead.
I do, and I agree. And let me say this right quick.
Go ahead.
If you make us beat you by the run game,
yep.
All you're going to do is we're going to pound you, keep the ball, run the clock, because our guys are going to be able to run. When you were talking about groupings, I think it's the best groupings all the way around the field. The only part I would argue would maybe the running backs when we had Drake, Henry, Yeldon, and Kamara in the backfield. That's the only ones I think would be close.
Yeah.
But anyway, my score is 52-14, and I got A&M getting about 248, 250 yards.
And what was that score again?
52-14.
All right. Got you, Cap. Thanks for calling, man. Anytime.
All right, brother. Hey, roll tide.
Roll tide.